Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping inside the literary hall of mirrors that is the novel What Light Was. It's a fascinating book that uses the legendary lives of F. Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald to ask some really deep questions about where life ends and stories begin. And let's just jump right in with a quote from the novel itself. This line, "Stories within stories," is pretty much the key to the whole thing. It's the central idea that everything is connected, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So, to find our way through this maze, here's our plan. We'll start by looking at the book's wild structure, then we'll meet the authors inside the story. We'll see how Zelda gets reborn as this character, Alabama, and then we'll listen in on conversations with her daughter before finally we get to the real heartrending letters that inspired it all.
All right, first up, the whole idea of this novel as a mirror. It's basically using fiction as a way to look at a very famous reality and maybe even try to make sense of it. So I want you to picture Scott and Zelda, not just living their famously chaotic lives on the Riviera, but actually sitting down to write their way through it all. They literally become characters in their own novel, trying to build something new out of the beautiful, messy fragments of their past. So how do these authors within the novel actually see their own project? This isn't just about telling a good yarn, it's about, well, basically photocopying their own souls onto the page. And Scott, the character, just comes right out and says it. He says the goal is to transcribe himself and Zelda into a new story that is, in his words, us again. It's this incredible metafictional experiment where they're trying to create a perfect reflection of themselves. So how does this whole mirroring thing actually happen? Well, it gets very concrete, very fast. It all starts with a character who is basically Zelda, dressed with a different name. And that character's name is Alabama. She's the heart of their fictional story, but make no mistake, she is a direct channel for the real Zelda. Her voice, her wild spirit, her contradictions, everything. And wow, this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, you have descriptions of the real Zelda, the first flapper. And on the right, Alabama, who calls herself a thoroughbred because she always delivers on the drama. I mean, it's the exact same defiant, charismatic, untamable energy. It's uncanny. Okay, so the mirror gets another mirror. The reflection deepens with Alabama's relationship with her own fictional daughter, Bonnie. And this is where the story gets really sharp, really poignant, and sometimes painfully funny. I mean, these conversations are just incredible. They're so biting and funny. You could just feel that this kid, Bonnie, has completely absorbed her parents' cynical, world-weary attitude. I seem to know everything is just a perfectly logical reason to quit school in her mind. And get the logic on this one. She's not learning to feel polite, she's learning to perform politeness. Her honesty is like a little weapon, and it shows this kid navigating the world with a logic that is both incredibly childish and, honestly, a little unnerving. Right here, you see she's not just some kid listening to a bedtime story. She jumps right into her dad's dramatic tale to show off what she knows. She's demanding her seat at the table. She is, through and through, a product of this very specific, very literary family. So this brings us to the next layer. We have to peel back all this amazing fiction to find the real-life stuff that sparked it. Why write about this parent-child dynamic with such specific, painful detail? You have to ask yourself, what's really going on here? What are the real anxieties that the fictional Scott and Zelda are trying to work through with these characters, Alabama and Bonnie? And the answer? Well, it's rooted in something very, very real. F. Scott Fitzgerald's actual letters to his daughter, Scotty. These fictional conversations we've been reading, they're basically echoes of his very real fears and hopes as a father. He is just brutally honest in these letters. Can you imagine getting a letter from your dad where he says he feels like a man divided because of his marriage to your mother? It's a truly heartrending confession about the sacrifices he felt he made. And you see this obsession over and over in his advice to Scotty. Work, dignity, stability. Look at this stuff. He is desperately trying to give her the tools for a life that he and Zelda never had. He's practically begging her to build a life with purpose, because he knows what it's like to live without it. And this is where it all comes together. The novel just masterfully weaves these layers of fiction and reality into this powerful, almost tragic, unbreakable chain of family anxiety. And check this out. Look at how perfectly the fiction lines up with the reality. In the book, Alabama worries she's just a distant, chic fashion plate to her daughter. In real life, Scott worries he lacked the self-protection to be a proper guide. It is the exact same fear of failure, just seen in two different mirrors. This table just breaks down that tragic gap. The fictional mom, Alabama, thinks she's glamorous, but her daughter would rather play keeping house with her stable grandma. The real dad, Scott, tries to give life lessons, but all he really wants is for his daughter to escape his chaos. In both worlds, the parents are struggling with who they are versus who their kids need them to be. So what you end up with are two versions of a mother. There's the fictional, stylish Alabama, and then there's the real, brilliant but broken artist Zelda. And both are just profoundly struggling to connect with the daughters, who are, in their own way, reflections of them. But the line that really just guts you comes from the fictional mother, Alabama. She has this moment of devastating clarity, realizing her daughter is awfully hungry for stability, for a scheme to fit into, the one thing her glamorous, chaotic life can't possibly provide.
And all of this leaves us with one last lingering thought. What Light Was is really asking a question about the baggage we all pass down. It makes you wonder, how much of our parents' unfinished business just becomes the story we have to figure out for ourselves?